Okay, gadget for today. This is my 2018 Goldwing, torn apart for some maintenance I had to do to it to fix a problem. I posted the other day about a loose nut. While I had it apart, I decided to do a project I've been looking at doing for, oh God, probably better part of 5 or 6 years. I've got a couple different motorcycles and I've owned several over the years, and one of the things is when I either leave to go for a ride or when I come home, just like everybody else, you got a garage that you got to open. And for years I just velcroed a garage door opener, stuck it like up here somewhere. Looked pretty hokey, and always had the idea of making something that was integrated into the bike a little better. Honda makes a accessory that goes into, I'm not sure which one of these, but it's basically a garage door opener that integrates into one of these false buttons here that you can add. And I think there's a trade name called Home Link or something like that that it uses, which is standard amongst a lot of garage doors, garage door openers. So what I wanted to do is make something a little more universal that could be used on almost any bike, and instead of having to add a button that you got to worry about with the weatherproofing of the button and things of that nature, I thought it would be neat to integrate to the high beam switch and make it in a way that you could flash your high beams and allow that to basically activate your garage door opener. So that's what I did. I already buttoned this up. It was late last night, but underneath here there's a bit of room, and I found that when I put the XM radio antenna on the bike a while ago. So I wanted to put something up near the nose of the bike, because typically you're either pulling nose first into the garage or you're backing out of it when you want to close it. So I figured I'd put it somewhere where it's close to the garage and doesn't have any metal around it and that. So there's a spot up there. So I took a Sears garage door opener, did a little bit of reverse engineering, made the battery a remote battery, and because I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to work in reality, in practice, I decided to pull the electronics portion of it, or the processor in that, back to an area where I'd be able to get to. So in my little glove box here, and I decided that I'd bring the wires up. So one of these wires goes to the actual garage door opener, and another set of wires goes to the high beam and actually low beam wiring on the Goldwing, which is tucked way back underneath there. I don't know if I can actually get to show it on video here, but back in there is the connector goes into the high beam, or into the back of the headlight. And so what I did is picked up the ground, the low beam, which would normally be on all the time for my power for my circuit, and then a connector to the high beam. So that gives me basically the switch input. Then I wrote a little bit of code on a little processor and made myself a little board. And yes, this is going to be very ugly, but this is what prototyping looks like. So I'm going to redo this later, but for right now, this has a remote battery, which is just a standard CR2032, and then this is a board that I have a little machine that'll actually it'll etch these boards and take it from a design to an actual physical board in just a few minutes. So I made that. This is the processor here. This is the programming connector, and really isn't a very complicated circuit. It's actually just a processor that detects the high beam to low beam transitions, a diode and resistor just to cut that signal down from the 12 to 14 volts the bike is going to put out, down to 3 volts or 3.3 volts that the processor can work with. And then I actually made this pretty insulated from, I kept the two circuits apart. I don't actually send any voltage to the garage door opener, I just have a relay close the contact, the same as if you're pressing the button. Same thing with the power. I decided not to try to power that adapter or the remote from anything on the bike, so that's why it uses the stock battery that that they have in those remote controls. So anyway, like I said, this is horrible looking, but it's just the first prototype. The other thing I did was, when you need to pair this with the garage door opener, you need to hold the button down until the garage door recognizes it the first time. So just in case I ever have to redo that, I made this circuit so that I have a regular button that would allow me to push that. I'll probably integrate all this onto one board later. Like again, this is prototyping, and it's not meant to look pretty, it's meant to prove that it works. So, and this also, the circuit that monitors the bike only does it while the bike is turned on. So we'll go ahead and turn the bike on here. And like I said, I wanted to integrate this so you don't have an extra button anywhere. You don't have to worry about, you know, any of those other issues you'd have with adding a button to a bike. So here is my high beam, and if I just do a simple on or off, I don't know if you can see there on the garage door that the light's on or off. So when you normally are turning your lights, high beams or low beams, it doesn't activate the circuit at that point. It just watches these. There's a little 1-second timer. So the other thing the Goldwing has is the ability of just flashing your lights. So if you press that button, the light will come on and off. So I basically designed it to have 6 transitions within 1 second. So if you simply do that, you'll see the garage doors opening. If you do it again, it'll stop. There. So using it is very simple, and you would think something like that would be very simple to do, but that probably took me a better part of a day and a half. Between the designing, the coding wasn't very long actually. It only took me probably about a half hour to write the code for it. It's nothing really that complicated. But to integrate it to the bike, to make it work as simple as it does, was actually pretty complex, all things considered. But it's like anything. It costs many magnitudes more to prototype something than it would cost to produce it in normal production, normal manufacturing. But anyway, and I'm not the originator of this idea. I saw this idea many years ago with some kind of a product that basically did the same thing. Don't know if they're still available, but I'm also going to do this on my sport bike. I have a CBR 1000 RR that once I spend all the time designing this, making another one is going to be fairly simple. It'll work the same way. Anyway, that was the project for today.